Hi, my name is Jeff Fassbinder, and today we're going to look at the GPro flybarless system. Some of the procedures such as binding for both Spectrum, DSM2, and also we'll be utilizing Futaba for our bind procedure. And in addition to that, we'll be looking at the software, which is very intuitive. Here we'll be looking at the version 1.1, which is included on our website, so if you need that software, it is available there. And this software, what's great about it is it can be used with your PC and also can be used with smartphones such as Android and or Apple type components. So consult your app store and you can find those software drivers available for free there. So why don't we get started with what we need to do with our radio for binding, and then from there we will look at the setup of our helicopter. And today we'll be utilizing the Align T-Rex 700E DFC and go through the process of doing the basic setup and getting it ready for flight. I think you'll find it pretty easy. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to get you focused in on the screen so you can see what's actually going on in the software and better enable you to see what's going on both in the radio and the software when doing the initial setup. So let's get started. We're going to start with the DSM2 and utilizing the GPro. So here we go. Alright, so let's get started. We got our GPro unit here. There you can see the flybarless unit. It has a plastic covering. You can go ahead and peel that off because we're going to need to have access to this USB port right here on the top. We'll also need a power source to power the GPro right now. I'm doing this so that way you can see the software and also see what's going on in the radio. But when you install it on your model, you can install this directly on your model and do what we're doing. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and apply power to the unit. I'm going to give it a power source so I have the ability to power it up. I have a little battery with a regulator here. And then I'm going to go ahead and plug in my satellite. So get that plugged in, get that ready for the bind procedure. And I'm just using one right now just for the sake of doing the demonstration here. And then inside the contents of the box, when you open this up, you're going to find the USB cord here, as well as some tape for mounting your flybarless unit, instructions on downloading some decals, and also some wires if you're using S-bus and things like that, or you're going to use a traditional receiver. The wires are included here, so you have the S-bus wire. But let's put that aside for now. Let's focus on the Spectrum setup here. What also is included in the box is a USB cord. We'll need that, so I'm going to go ahead and plug that into my computer. I've already installed the software, which is available on the Align website for download. That's version 1.1. And what you want to do is you want to have, well, in this case I'm going to be using a satellite because I'm going to use Spectrum. And I have a power setup here so I can power the GPro unit. I'm going to go ahead and plug in the USB port. I also have my satellite already plugged in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to do actually the bind procedure here for Spectrum type systems. And this lends itself to also the JR systems as well. It's very similar to this. So we're going to go ahead and apply power. So I'm going to apply power here. Turn on power. Power there. You'll see that it shows connected on screen on the software. We're going to go ahead and click Setup. And we want to do is select Create New Settings. And it's going to ask you if you want to do this, if this is a new setup or not. Yes, it is. So we're going to confirm we want to create new settings. And then what we're going to do up here on top of the screen, it says receiver type. You have conventional, you have S-bus for Futaba, Spectrum, DSM2, you have DSMX, DMSS, JR X-bus, mode A only. For this particular demonstration, I'm going to be using DSM2, and I'm going to select bind with failsafe. Alright, so now that I have those selected, what I need to do is I need to power down this unit. So I'm going to power off to the GPro right now, and I'm going to turn it on, and now you'll see the satellite is flashing just like you would with the normal Spectrum as far as doing your binding procedure. Now I got my radio. I'm going to hold down the bind button, switch on power, and then we get a solid here on the satellite. I'm going to recycle the power one more time here on the unit. I'm going to cycle that because it shows disconnected once it actually locks on to that frequency. So we're going to go ahead and switch off my radio real quick, switch that on, switch on my GPro, give it power, shows connected there again on the screen, and now we'll go into the setup menu. And this by and large will be utilizing the radio for this process. Okay. So if you look right now, we have our Spectrum satellite DSM-2. We've already done the actual bind procedure. Okay, so theoretically that's been done for us. So what I'm going to do is this guy, I'm going to go ahead and put it off to the side here because kind of need it, but we don't need to see that. Right now we want more of the radio here. And what I'm going to do, and I'm going to see if I can zoom this in for you a little bit better on the screen. See if I can get you tighter there. You can see the settings on the screen here. Tighter yet. Alright. Hopefully you can see that pretty well. If you look on screen right here, you'll notice right now I'm using the aileron function in the radio. And what you're going to want to do is you need to go into your list here, and I'm going to go to my travel adjust. What you want to start out with here in your radio is basically all 100, 100. Okay, everything's 100, 100 as far as all your travel adjustments. So you want to make sure that's the case. And then what you want to do is make sure that you're reading 100% for, you're giving a left input. I'm giving a left input, and actually I'm getting 101. So I select aileron in the radio here. And what I want to do is I want to adjust just the left side here. So I want to adjust that. And I want to adjust, right now it says 111 on the left for aileron, but I want to make sure that that reads 100% in the software that you see here on the GPro interface. It's really easy, really intuitive once you do it. We're going to do the same process for pretty much everything. I'm going to give a right input. It's only reading 92% on screen right now. So what I need to do is, while I'm holding right stick there, I'm going to go ahead and keep increasing that number until it goes up to 100%. I'm doing this again by the ATV menu. Alright, so I'm looking at that. And then let's let the stick go back to 0. Your sub trim should all be zeroed out right now. If this center was not reading 0 here, we would use sub trim to nullify or get our 0 to make sure it's true 0 on the gimbal. So that you would use sub trim for that. Right now we're using, again, the travel adjustment to set 100% on both ways, and to make sure it's working the correct direction. So this is a left input, this is a right input. So we need to make sure that that's working right. Okay, so I moved it again, and it looks like I could go one more point. So 100, 100. All right, so we're done with the aileron. So let's move on to elevator. We're going up, pulling up here, giving an up input, and now I'll move down to elevator here. and I'm going to go to up. And on screen, when I pull up, you'll see it's only at 91%. So what I'm going to do in the radio here, again, I'm just going to hold up, and I'm going to move that until on screen on the computer, it shows 100%. Now the radio is saying it's 109, but on screen, for what the gyro is going to see, what it sees from your gimbal, it sees it as 100%, and that's what we want to do. We want to get it all 100%. So I'm going to go down. Same thing on the down input. I need to add. I'm at 91, so I'm going to go ahead and go until I hit 100%. And I'm at 109, and my center point's still 0. So gimbal's working well there. Now we're going to check out pitch. Before we do that, let's go into our pitch. Check our pitch curve out. And inside my radio right now, I just have a straight line, 0 to 100 right now. Okay. If you want to do some adjustments there later on for your preference, you can do that. But let's do that, and I'm going to go ahead and check my throttle curve again. And that is a straight line. So you want that again from 0 to 100. Okay. So that's why we want that. So let's go back to the travel adjustments again, and we're gonna go to, we're looking at pitch. Let's check out pitch. We'll move down to the pitch on the radio here. So we're at pitch, and we're gonna check that, and it's reading 90% on my low position. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull that up in the radio, and at 110 we're reading 100% here on screen. So let's go positive. Again, we want to make sure that said negative. Now you can see the slider moving live. Positive, we're positive, and we want to move that again until it hits 100%. And the reason why we had that linear line in the throttle and pitch, in this case pitch, we want to make sure at mid stick we're reading 0% here. In this case we are, which is a great thing. So we're going to go down to rudder now, and we're going to look at rudder. And I'm going to give a left input on the radio, and let me move to rudder. Okay, and on my left input, full travel, I'm only reading 90%, even though my radio says 100% here. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'll increase that value. Let me get to rudder. And I'm increasing the value here in the radio. And that gives us 100% here. So I'm going to do the same for the right side. Again, in the radio, we're going to move the ATV. So it's 100%, and at center stick, I'm zeroed out, which is good. Now we're going to go to the same for throttle like we did for pitch. Okay, we have full negative there. We want to go into our low throttle, and we want to make this 100%. I know those of you that are going to be utilizing Castle's gov function and so forth, you will be making your adjustments doing the standard 50-50 once you've done the setup process. So after the setup process, you do your normal calibration with which Castle recommends, but you start off 50-50. Again, find the points, the top, the high, and the low, and then use the curves accordingly to Castle's recommendation, which is basically 30, 70, and 100. So if you have any questions about that, please consult the Castle's website for that. So for right now though, throttle, we got 100% at idle. We're going to go to full, and I'm going to adjust this again until I get to 100. So there's settings there for that. And I'm going to go to my mid stick again. That's why it was important that we We make sure that you know, we have 0 to 100 as far as on our curve, and in this case our throttle curve, to make sure we have 0 at mid stick. So that's good there. As far as the tail here, the gear tail gain, depending on how you have your set up, you can go into your gyro menu and set up the gain values there for what you prefer. On the Futaba side, we're running about 65 to 70 depending on your head speed, and here on the Spectrum with the head speed running, it's about 75 to 70. Again, this depends on the head speed you're running for your given flight performance. And as far as the other attributes here, you have GOV. We won't be utilizing that for the electric. And you have aux 2 spare. We don't need that. That is the bind process and the setup for the radio. And that's how it works for Spectrum. So basically, we have the complete setup for our radio done. We've nullified everything and we've calibrated to the GPro software here. So now we're going to move on. We're going to click next. And now we're going to tell the gyro mounting location, depending on what helicopter. When you look at the GPro unit here, there is that, let's see if you can make that easy for you to see. There's an arrow. So depending on which way that's pointing, you'll see there's an icon here showing you which way to mount it on your helicopter. You just select on the screen which way you have it mounted, and then basically that's all you have to do. You just need to, you click here and tell it which way you want to mount your actual gyro orientation. You also, for your blade direction, you need to specify this. In this case, all line helicopters are clockwise. So we would select clockwise, but if you're running another helicopter, it does have the ability to optimize for that, and you can set that within the software. Moving along to next, we are going to set up our swash plate type and also our collective pitch direction. For all line helicopters, when the swash plate moves up, that's positive movement. But again, if you're using our fly-by-wire system on another helicopter, that may differ, and therefore you could select swash down if that was positive with your helicopter. But for all line helicopters, up movement of the swash plate is a positive movement on the blades. In this case, we'll be using the HR3 for the 700, and you'll be utilizing basically one servo 90 degrees with Spectrum, and on Futaba, you'll be using H1. So just so you know that on your radio types, Spectrum's 90 degrees, one servo. Futaba, you use H1. As far as reversing and so forth, everything stays normal right here for our setup. But what we'll do is we'll take a look at this on the actual helicopter right now. So I'm going to get the helicopter plugged in. You'll see it on the helicopter, and that way you get a better idea of what's going on with the software. But I'm going to go ahead and, if as far as the swash here, if you needed to reverse anything, you would do it here. Now that we've already calibrated the radio and everything's orientated correctly in our radio per the software on that first screen, you would do any reversing of the servos here in the software for your swash place if you needed to. Okay, so let's go to the next screen here. Again, we'll need our helicopter for this next procedure. This is sub-trim. This is where we'll level the swash, and this is where it'll be handy to have a swash leveler. So you'll want to have this handy so you can level your swash, because this will greatly improve upon the performance of your setup with this gyro system. Alright, and as far as the collective trim and cyclic trim, we'll get into that when we're looking at the actual helicopter. Positive collective, negative collective. These, again, we'll cover when I plug to the actual helicopter so you can see that. We'll need a pitch gauge when we do this setup on the helicopter, and we'll also need some tools for removing the rotor head. So we're going to need to remove the rotor head so we can use the swash leveler. If you already have 0 set in on your helicopter, that's great. That'll speed the process. But if not, I'm going to go ahead and show you. We'll zero it out, make sure we have 0 with our radio, and then check the helicopter, and that will enable us to do the positive cyclic trim and negative cyclic trim once we've achieved 0 within our system here. So let me move this aside, and then I'll get the helicopter so you can see that, and then I'll try and position this so you can see both the helicopter and the software with the radio. So just one moment. All right, we're gonna pull off the canopy on my T-Rex 700E DFC here. Pull that off, put that aside. And I'm gonna go ahead and get the blades off here. All right. Okay, for this part of the video, I'm going to show it with the Futaba. As far as what we did on the Spectrum, you do the same thing with your ATVs on Futaba as well. So you would do the same process with the Futaba system. As far as binding process, you'll see right now that we're utilizing the S-Bus cable. Let's see if I can show you. There's an S-Bus cable right here that's included. We plug that into your GPro, into the S-Bus port, which is here. Let me show you. So on your S-Bus port, you'll see it right here, S-Bus. It's on the right-hand side here. You'll plug that in, and that's where your receiver signal will come in from. As far as the binding process, the only binding process that you'll actually need to do is plug that in. The receiver, of course, binds up, with the Futaba. It's pretty much plug and play. You hold the button on your receiver and plug that in. So there's really not a binding process like the Spectrum or JR. So let's see if I have a long enough cable here to change sides. My USB cord here. Okay, that powered up. I'm going to plug in my GPro there. Let's see if you can see everything. And while we're waiting for that to pull up, okay. All right, so it's linked up. And we're going to go into the setup menu. And what we'll do is I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing I did with the Spectrum. We're going to go ahead and null everything out, make sure everything's zeroed out. So let's go ahead and get started here. We're going to create new settings. Alright, so in the software here on screen, I've selected Futaba S-Bus because that's what we're using. And right here on the radio here, I'm going to go into model type. And I just want to show you that I am running H1 there. So make sure you have H1 with Futaba. Now I'm going to go into my endpoint adjustment, just like ATVs. And here, I've already set these values, so you can see those values here with my radio. It's going to differ slightly with each radio in Futaba, but to give you an idea where you're at so you know what numbers will need to be. So when you see me move, I got 100 on aileron, 100 on right aileron. My center is 0. Same thing on elevator. I want to make sure I got 100 up, 100 down. Pitch, positive, negative, I want 100 and 100. So you can look at pitch here. Let's go down to pitch. So you can see that. Again, you see the gyro and then also the pitch, all the values there. So those have been set just like we did with the Spectrum radio. So for yourself, you're going to do the same thing. You'll go into the ATVs and you're going to get 100, 100. So now I'm looking at the rudder, make sure that's moving left, right, 100%. Your throttle, same thing here. You want to make sure you have 100, 100. Let me go back. Since I've already done that, you'll note that on my throttle, that's set up due to the calibration with the Castle software. So for our purposes right now, we can put this at 100. So just so you can see. Let me get back to 95, where I was. We'll go to this side, and you'll notice that moves to 100 there on the bottom, and then go to positive, and it's about 105, 105 there as far as within the software. So all right, so and as far as our tail gain here, again 74, 68, 68, that's what I'm running with the speed body applied. Again, aux 1, aux 2, nothing really going on there. We're running E, so we don't have anything going on there. Now moving on, again, gyro orientation, you'll notice the gyro is pointing forward, just like you see here in this diagram. So the gyro is pointing the front of the helicopter, and make sure you, okay, so that's just a close-up of that. The wires are facing towards the back of the helicopter. All right, now that we've done that, again, we're covering the rotation is clockwise for our helicopter. So for a line helicopter, we've got a clockwise rotation there. Click next on the bottom of the software here, GPro interface. Again, on line helicopters, swash plate, up swash plate movement is a positive movement. So just take note of that, make sure that's selected. If it wasn't, you would select this, which positive would be the swash moving downward, but in our case, again, we want the swash going up. I have selected H3, 120 ECCPM, where it says reverse there. So HR-3 swash plate type is what we'll be using. Again, this is where we check our swash movement, and you'll notice it's not moving as it should. Even though we've set everything else up correctly in those other screen, the previous screen, the first screen, swash movement, we want to go in here now and let's check that out. Let's see. No. And I've reversed channel 3 here on screen, and now if you look at the swash, it's all moving up and down together. That's how it should be moving. Okay? This is where you want the reverse to take place within the GoPro interface. Do not do that in the radio with the reverse there. That is only when you're looking at the screen here. So we give a left input, it's giving a left input. We keep pulling up on the elevator, giving back stick, up, that's moving correct. Same thing with pitch, positive, negative. So long as the software sees it correctly, you're doing fine. All you need to do is go into the software itself, select reverse here, and now your swash is moving as it should. Okay, so, and that's it. It's real simple. Let's move on. Here's where the sub trim. Okay, sub trim, we need to get our swash level. So in order to do that, it does take an extra step to do this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pop off my link here. Be real easy. Pull that. Hopefully you can see. Alright, pop that off and let's go around here. I should actually pop this side off here. Make it easier. Alright, so I can put my swash leveler on. Remember I told you it's pretty important for that? Don't skip that procedure. Any fly-bar system for that matter is going to benefit from using a swash leveler, and you're going to be much happier with the flight performance of your helicopter. So let's go ahead and do that. The other great thing about this is, oh, I should have left that off actually. Pop that off there. Sorry about that. Let me go ahead and pop this off. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and pop the head off. We'll set that aside. And I'm going to use my swash leveler. We're going to stick that on here. Okay. Alright, so I'm looking at the swash. And let's see. I don't know if I can get that in tighter for you. Let's see. Get that tighter. Okay. Looks to me as though we have some issues here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in the software, and let me turn you to the software now so you can see. And let me see if I can get this a little bit closer there. It's a little tough. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the sub trim values here in the setup menu, and I'm going to adjust till I level out the swash here. So number 1, or servo 1, is the rear servo at the back of the frame. Don't mind that, that's just the timer. And then, so once that's touching the swash leveler here, just barely touching, we'll move on to the next servo, servo number 2. And servo number 2 is the servo on the left side of the frame here. And I'm going to make that adjustment now. Again, within the software, not in my radio. Just get it so it's just touching. And then I'm going to go to servo 3, which is the right hand side, right here. We're going to make that adjustment. And looks like we're right there. It's pretty good. Okay. Pull that off. Okay, so let's look at those values there so you can see that. And if you look closely at the screen, I have -3, 5, and 14. My servos were 90 as far as on the servo horn, so you want to make sure that's the case before you even get started with this, but that's what we have. It needed just those little amounts of sub trim to get the swash level. Now what we want to do is get our collective trim at 0. So what we can do is we'll pop the, let me zoom out, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and we'll pop the head back on here. Let me get, and for the sake of just doing this process, we're just going to use one of the side shoulder bolts here just to hold it in place so we can take the pitch measurement. Here, pop that on, bring it around here. Okay, so I only have one bolt up here, and this is just so I can check the 0 out, make sure everything's good. All right, now we're gonna pull up our trusty digital pitch gauge here. Alright, so we'll 0 that. Get that 0'd. Okay. Now I'm going to put that on our blade. And then I'm going to check out my collective trim here. So if we need to make any adjustment here, we're going to do it right here for the 0. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm putting that on the blade. And let's see. I'm checking out the pitch gauge. Let's see if you can see that. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to get that in frame there for you. It's kind of hard to see, but on the pitch gauge it's reading 0. So on my collective trim it was up at 53. And cyclic, take a look at the cyclic here. Cyclic, we're pretty much dead nuts on both that side. Let's check the other side here. Yeah, we're pretty much dead nuts on both sides. So those are 0, and I got my collective trim 0 point adjusted here, and not on a curve or anything in the radio. Now select next, and you'll notice on screen here when I move the radio, positive, this illuminates, and when I go negative, this illuminates here. So let's go to positive, and we're going to set for what we want as far as pitch. You can set it, for 12, 13, 14, whatever you want to run. I'll check out what I have here. Make sure my blades are straight. And right now, at just 100%, I'm reading at about 10.4. So I'm going to adjust this for myself. This is just the top end right now, and I'm going to adjust this for 13 degrees for myself here. Alright, so now we're at 13 degrees. That's 121. Now I'm going to go to negative, and I'm going to adjust the negative value here. until I get 13 degrees as well. Alright, and that one's at 135. So positive, negative, I got 13 degrees, and you'll see that pop back and forth. It'll illuminate. So positive, negative. Okay? Again, this is why it's important that your pitch is a linear line for this process, so that you can set these points up in accordance to what you want per your pitch gauge. Alright, cyclic pitch is the next menu here, and per the GPro's instructions, as it tells you, what's nice about the software interface on the PC is that it actually gives you clear definitions and instructions on what these sliders are doing. So in this case, the cyclic pitch, we want to set this to 8 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and click set to 8. I'm going to look at my pitch gauge, see what it's reading, and right now, even though everything's centered up here, when I set that, the swash tilts over to one side, and I'm not receiving 8 degrees right now. So what I need to do is I got to go in here and adjust this till I get 8 degrees. It started off about 6.9. I'm going to go ahead and slide this over until I hit 8 degrees of cyclic pitch. And there you have it. I'm at 120. And I'm at 8 degrees of cyclic pitch. I'm going to go to 0 pitch, check that. And then, awesome thing about it, since we sent 0 before, it's dead nuts right now. So, it's pretty awesome to take a look. You can tell it to release, and then you can actually check out your pitch range, make sure everything's working. And if you need to make any adjustments for whatever reason, if it's off, say a point, it goes from 13 to 12.9, you can always go back here and say, okay, I want to adjust that, and I want to bump it up one more point here, so I get 13. I want 13. So we'll check that, take that adjustment, click release, look at it again, and when we have 13 and 13, we're good. Alright, so now we're going to go to the next port where we select the servo. In this case, I'm using the align servos, so we use the standard digital 1520. And rudder direction, okay, this is where your gyro makes compensations. Let's try and look at the tail here. I'm going to move this forward. Okay, so I'm giving a left input, but that's not left. It's going to the right. So what I need to do is, on rudder direction in the software, I'm going to select reverse. In the software. So let's, we'll take a look at that on screen. Zoom, put this back to the computer so you can see that. And you'll notice right here on rudder direction, it's reversed. So we got that. Go ahead and let's pull the tail in really close. When you look on screen there, you got your neutral position. Alright, so we're going to look at the tail. And let's first get the neutral position. And we're going to go about this very simply. We're going to fold the blades. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to fold the blades like this. And what we want is a straight plane right there on the blades. If it's not, we go to the neutral position on the software, and we'll make the adjustment here until that is where we need it to be. Okay, we need to go the other way. So let's do that. Okay, and then if you look at the tail blades, you see it's almost perfect. I'm going to move it now. Again, I was at 33, and you'll see them moving very slowly there. You can see that. And now they're on a straight plane. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull them back out though, and we're going to set, there's the right input. And what we want to do is make sure on the tail back here that we're not binding. Okay, so we can actually go over more on that. So we can go right here, the travel limit for the right in the software, and you'll notice it's moving very slowly over. Okay, and I did that right here in the software. Right here, made the adjustment. It's at 107. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the left. You see that screen how it switches, and now move to the left travel limit. I'm going to go back on the tail here so you can see that. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to look at that, take a good look, get close, make sure it's not binding on the hub, and then again make an adjustment. And let's back that off just a little bit. So I'm at 89 in the software. Let me pull it back to the software. Alright, so that's the tail. And you can just take a look real quick. Let's see. Let's move it to the next menu. The next menu here is for nitro. Although you can utilize this, we're not going to discuss that in this video before this is the 700E video. But we do have a governor function built into the GPro software for your use. Alright, now we're entering the fun part, parameters. Basically the helicopter setup, and we've spent a lot of time and effort giving you some great values to work with for starting out. So we're going to say yes. It says basically, please ensure helicopter's hardware setting has been completed before making any changes to flight parameters. That's what we've been doing. So we've done the setup for the helicopter. We've got our 13 degrees of pitch, what I've set up on my helicopter. You can set up whatever you like in your helicopter. 8 degrees of cyclic as required for your initial starting point with the GPro, and setting up all the endpoints, making sure that the radio is calibrated with what the GPro sees as 100-100 on all the endpoints. We've done that. So now we're going in here and you're going to see a whole bunch of things. You have the swash plate, flight response, flight agility, swash gain, cyclic expo, cyclic deadband, elevator pre-comp. Those are just some of the features you see there. You also see on the tail you have tail piro rate, rudder gain, rudder expo, rudder deadband, tail acceleration, rudder right stop, rudder left stop, so you can actually set up how hard you want it to stop on the left and right side to try and get it to be identical on each side. And also you have rudder P gain, rudder I gain, and then you have torque pre-comp on collective to tail and cyclic to tail. On this side here, you have the nitro. Again, we're not going to cover that in this video, but we do have helicopter size. In this case, we're using large because it's the T-Rex 700E DFC. But we also have, for smaller helicopters from 250 to 450, we would select that. We also have a beginner setting here. So if you're not necessarily a 3D pilot, you're more of a sport flyer, we've already got some general parameters. You click apply, and what you'll notice is if you look right here, this is 80, 80, 80 on your flight response. Watch what's going to happen. Those get pulled back. 60, 60. Your swash gain gets turned up to 100%, giving you a little more stability, more locked in feel. Again, this is great if you're just starting out, and if you're just a sport flyer and you're not really into, real high speed 3D. This is a great settings to start with. You can go in here and tweak this on the fly, and you don't need to redo what we've already done as far as the setup, as far as our endpoints and all that. All you have to do is come in here to the parameters menu and make adjustments as you see fit. So right now though, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click the reset button here. I'm going to say yes, reset. And that's going to take it back to the default setting. I'm running the default parameters. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes. And on this side as well, reset. And those are the settings that are actually in your gyro right now when we click reset. If you want to save these settings, all you got to do is click here, and then in align GPro parameters file, I can just say this is my T-Rex 700E DFC model here, and put the date, which is July 7/3/14, and we'll click save. I've saved the parameters for the helicopter here, and in the setup menu I can do the same thing. So I have my setup for this helicopter. I can say this is the setup for T-Rex 700E DFC GPro, and now I have the settings saved. So when I come back in, or I want to make any adjustments, let's say I disconnect it from my helicopter. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll close that out. I'll disconnect the unit from the GPro. I'm going to go ahead and I'll replug that in. Power up my GPro. I'm going to give it power, and then I'll launch the software here. And so, yes, that's fine. I'm going to launch the software, and we're connected. We can go in the setup menu. Do we want to create new settings? No, we've already got the settings stored. They're stored in the GPro. So we have all that. We can scroll through the menu here if we like. Make sure that's everything that we set. We reversed here. See, it took that reading directly from the GPro unit. I didn't make any changes here. Goes in here 3, 5, 14, 53. Again, the values are stored in the GPro, so it does it automatically. Automatically saves. It's inside of the GPro, those parameters, unless you tell it otherwise. Again, we had made changes on the negative. We were at negative 39, positive 25, and then our cyclic pitch to get 8 degrees, we were at 120. That's all saved. So we don't, I'm just showing you so that way you can see all the parameters have been stored, and there's no point where you have to click save. The only reason why I chose save up here is just so I have the parameters in the computer. If I want to pull those back up and make adjustments, I can do that without any problem. So there's that. There's the tail. Go here to the tail. Right rudder, left rudder. And let's go here. Next. And then enter parameters menu. So go into parameters menu again. Ensure helicopter hardware setting has been complete before. Yes. Okay. So again, these are the stock parameters. They're stored in the GPro. And if you want to make any adjustments, you can do this here with your computer. Or we have an optional device. I'll show you that device. It's called the BTH01. It's this little guy right here. And so if you want to go to the field and you want to use Bluetooth on your phone or your iPhone or your Android, you can use this, and the menus look very similar to what you're seeing here, just that they're single stacked, meaning you'll just see this one and then you'll see this and then this as far as on your phone. So you can make changes at the field very easy if you want to, but the stock parameters are great for getting started. So I hope this showed you how to do the bind process with Spectrum. Again, with the Futaba, The bind process is as simple as binding your receiver. You connect in the S-Bus wire into the GPro unit. Again, that's right here, bottom. You plug that wire right in here, and you're ready to go. Only thing you need to do is go into your setup menu. So do ensure that you use a swash leveler, that you set your pitch according to your needs, but your cyclic will be 8, you set your 0, and you're going to be very pleased with the performance with the GPro. And I hope you like the software. Again, we worked on this quite a while to get it right, and hope you enjoy the flight performance you'll receive. This is Jeff Fassbinder signing off for Align with the new GPro interface software 1.1 and this great new flybarless system. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please feel free to look at www.align.com.tw. Thanks for watching.